Welcome, everyone, to the Aseret podcast. And today we have with us the founder of the Aseret movement, Rabbi Shalom Schwartz. Hi, Rabbi Shalom.
Shalom of Nitzan. Good to be here.
How are you?
Baruch Hashem. How are you doing?
Okay, happy birthday for Yoni.
Yeah, my son Yoni was born on a special day in the Jewish calendar. Not everyone knows about this special Beit Sivan. Do you know what Beit Sivan's significance is, Rav Nitzan?
No, I don't.
I don't think I was too knowledgeable about this until Yoni was born on this day. But there are many calendars. My calendar on my fridge shows that Beit Sivan is Yom HaMiyuchas, it's called. It's in Hasidic literature. It's in various places you find it referenced. Yom Yuchas is translated, maybe the best, I call it a day of noble lineage, from the word Yichus.
Okay.
Right? Yom HaMiyuchas, the day when the Jewish people's noble lineage became a part of their identity. What happened on Beit Sivan?
I guess Moses went up on the mountain and there was some back and forth. I can't remember exactly.
Okay, so the significance of this date, it's interesting. I didn't intend specifically to talk about it, but it was the Torah records the Jewish people coming to Mount Sinai, and that date is more known. It's Rosh Chodesh Sivan, the first day of the month of Sivan, is when the Jewish people arrived at Midbar, at Har Sinai, right at the mountain of Sinai. And the Torah specifies there that it was a day of great unity of the Jewish people. It uses a singular verb, Vayichana'am, the Jewish people encamped opposite the mountain. And that verb, encamped, was singular as opposed to other descriptions of encampments in the desert, which were in the plural form, Vayachanu. So Rashi brings down the Chazal, the rabbis stay on that, the significance of that singular encampment, like one person with one heart, like one, as it's explained, what do you mean one purpose, one person? There was a singular identity with a singular unity, a unity heart and soul, or purpose and heart, however you want to learn those two terms, identity and heart, were coming together. The entire Jewish people were at one with each other. And this was considered to be the necessary foundation upon which the giving of the Aseret Global, the Ten Commandments and the Torah, needed to be given to a unified people, a people that had that sense of brotherhood and solidarity and connection and common purpose that was necessary to undertake the mission of the Jewish people that was given at Sinai. So my son Yoni was born on this day. He was our youngest child. He's our youngest child. He turned 31 today. And I've always spoken to him about this day. And when I was with his army buddies today, we went to visit him at his army base as a surprise celebration of his birthday, which was initiated by his wife. And she took the three kids. She asked us if we wanted to come. Debbie and I, my wife and I, drove out there. It was a 2.5 hour drive, and it was we picked up the food on the way, and we had a birthday party at the base. And it was quite, I'm not sure I have the right words to describe it. You know, somebody was saying to me the other day, you know, you have a son in the army. I won't pretend to say that I understand what that's like. And I feel that I can't even explain what it's like. I mean, there's the anxiety and there's the fear that you go through. And thank God we were able to see him. There were times where many of the soldiers would go in for weeks and months at a time into Gaza. In the early days, you didn't have any contact with them. And my son Yoni called me Erev Shabbat, the night he was going into Gaza to fight, to get a bracha before Shabbat. Then I would give him a blessing to he should be safe. And he couldn't tell me what he was going to be doing. They don't let them tell, you know, they say, Dad, I'm going into Gaza. No, you don't do that. You say, I'm phoning for a blessing. But I understood why he was phoning. And I gave him a blessing. And of course, my heart was pounding. And I'm blessing my son going into the battlefield of fighting for the Jewish people, fighting for all of Am Yisrael, fighting for civilization. And I tell him, we're so proud of you. So I say that the anxiety and the fear that I have is real. and unpredictable and probably indescribable. But it's also combined with, and often, I hope, overshadowed by the pride and the inspiration and the bitachon, the connection to God that I feel that I'm drawing for with him in this situation. God should protect you. God should protect all of us, protect all the soldiers. He should return the chatufim, the hostages immediately. So that moment of that connecting with your son around a prayer like that is indescribable. That's not something that really has words to capture the complexity of the emotions, the depth of the emotions, and ultimately the impact it has on your relationship and on yourself. So along with tens of thousands of parents and spouses and children that go through this constantly in the last period, but really throughout all of history of the state of Israel, I had the opportunity today to do a different experience, which was to celebrate my son's birthday on his base, which his current situation is they do their missions. They go into Gaza at like usually leaving like at midnight, 1 a.m, 2 a.m. They spend 5 or 6 hours on a mission, sometimes longer. Then they come back to go to sleep, and then they do more training during the day, and then they go back at night for additional missions. But just the opportunity to be there was like, you're on the base. There's all these guys. They're doing what they're doing. We had to cut it short because they were going for some of their shooting training to sharpen their skills. But what happened was I ended up speaking to these people I've heard about from my son many times. Some of them have been with the Army. Some of them have even been at our home. Some of them have been with him in the Army for many years. But I had a very interesting conversation with his mem pay, it's called, Mefaked Pluga, which is, I'm not sure the numbers exactly, but he's in charge of maybe 70 to 100 soldiers, and Yoni's one of them. Okay, so I asked him, tell me how you feel about being here? Like, how are you doing? He told me his story a little bit. He lives in Herzliya. He has a wife and 2 children there. I said, how's that going? He said, not simple. I said, so how are you doing? He said, okay, we're doing okay, like all of us. And then I said, well, tell me a little bit about how you experience this. He said, what drives us all to come back here is the sense of camaraderie. He called it camaraderie. He spoke a little bit of English first. He said the sense of connection that they have with each other. These are not 18-year-olds. They're around Yoni's age, some a little older, some a little younger. They're married men with kids. They leave their families, and they defending each other, spending every night putting their lives in danger to defend the Jewish people, depending on each other, to protect each other, depending on that sense of mutual responsibility that they share. He just said it so casually. He said, yeah, that's why we come. We know that we're needed. Everybody's got to do this. There's a sense of national responsibility, but there's also a deep sense of mutual confidence and responsibility that they have within their own groups. The group can be 10, can be, my son Yoni's now a Hummer driver. It's like 12 people on this big Jeep. He was the gunner. Now he's being trained to be the driver. They do different roles from time to time. But the point is that there's this very deep sense of brotherhood that exists in these situations of protecting each other. And then he went on to say, I asked him, like, how does he feel about the goals of the war? There's a lot of controversy within Israel and criticism. I said, look, one of the things that we all need to do is when you're fighting for your lives, you can't be questioning every decision. I have confidence in the people who are directing me. My soldiers have confidence in my leadership. There has to be a sense of confidence that this brotherhood it facilitates, right? They're together, they're protecting each other. I don't know how to get these hostages. And the second thing he said was the hostages. We're all driven by this connection with these 58 hostages that are still left there. And he told me, look, in our chativa, in our brigade, there were 7, I think he said 7, that were hostages. And some have been released. No, I think he said there's 7 that are left there of the ones that were, of the 59. 7 are from his brigade. And he said that 5 of them they think are not alive, and 2 of them they think are alive. He said, but I said, do you know them personally? He said, no, but they're my family, they're my brothers. Of course, I'm driven by this in order to free these hostages. So it's deeply emotionally moving to be in these situations. And for them, they're doing it day in, day out. His family's in Herzliya. He said, look, not everybody has the same political views in this country, but we do have a common bond and a common destiny. And that's what we share. And we can't allow our differences to divide us. And that's the first message of Shavuot. We're a few days away from Shavuot. So this message of being at the foot of the mountain together with a sense of not just camaraderie, but a sense of oneness, that we're in this together for the future. We share a destiny, we share a mission, and that still, after 3,300 years, is at the root of these soldiers' experience. And all of us coming together, standing again at Mount Sinai, saying, we're going to do this, we're going to fulfill this mission. That's the challenge that all of us have preparing for Shavuot, that it's not just a holiday, it's not just a celebration, it's not a nice Jewish tradition, it's a recommitment to that mission that we got at Sinai as one people. So that's my first observation, that we should all find that place in us that feels one with the entirety of Jewish history, of Jewish destiny, of Jewish mission, and that can be transformative. Don't think about the holiday as a religious holiday. It is also. It's Torah, and it's learning Torah, and it's cheesecake, and it's whatever it is for you. But it's something that goes very deep to the heart of the Jewish people's mission and the Jewish people's role and for humanity. We were chosen at this point to be a role model for humanity, to be spiritual leaders. So that brings us back to the date. The second day of Sivan was actually after we were there. So the next sentence in the Torah says, Ko tamar levet Yaakov. Moshe is told by God, this is what you should tell first to the women, then to the men, and offer them this covenantal relationship with me, with history and with me. That happened on the 2nd of Sivan. God offered the mission of the Jewish people, and the Jewish people responded according to there's not a complete clarity about the timing of when the answer took place, but the assumption is that the initial yes, we will took place on this day. There was an exchange. God said, Moshe, I need you to tell it to them. Don't persuade them. She says, this is what you should say to them, not more and not less. Right? God was offering a covenantal relationship that needed to have the choice of the Jewish people. It wasn't to be forced, it was to be chosen by the Jewish people. We talk about chosen people. God was offering a special relationship. Am Segulam, Mamlechet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh. That's in that section. We were described, that God described through Moshe to the Jewish people. This is what I envision for you, to be a group of spiritual leaders, Mamlechet Kohanim, build a nation, a state that will be a role model spiritually and morally for humanity, and a Goy Kadosh, and a holy nation. You're going to have a special relationship with God, an elevated consciousness, an elevated purpose. These are the things that happen on this day, 3,300 and how many years are we now? 37, I think. 3,337 years ago today. We then had a few days of preparation after we accepted that we're going to go into this covenant. But that's why Yom HaMiyuchas, that's why it has a special title this day, that it was the day where our lineage, meaning our covenantal destiny as the Jewish people began on this day, because we accepted this covenant with God.
Wow. Makes me think, when someone converts, it's modeled on Sinai. And it's interesting. You become, and integral to conversion is accepting this mission. You're joining a people with a mission. So that becomes your yachas. That becomes your lineage. Now you're Jewish. So like, oh, that's where we all became Jewish. Wow, beautiful.
I actually saw a beautiful presentation by Rachel Goldberg Poland who spoke about this in relationship to the book of Ruth. Right, we read the book of Ruth on Shavuot because
Mm-hmm.
of what you're saying. The parallel. There are many reasons that are given. King David was born on the day of Shavuot and died on the day of Shavuot. Ruth was his great grandmother, and but Ruth became the paradigm of conversion and the Jewish people's conversion from being part of the general populace and having the option of being, we were from Avram Avinu, we knew about this covenantal potential destiny, but we accepted it at Sinai, and it's related to this dimension of, as you said, converting. But she said it so beautifully, when the words of Ruth, when we think about what conversion is, such a powerful lesson, because it's not only a religious conversion, right? Ruth, who lost her husband, and Naomi says to her mother-in-law says to her, "Go back. You're young. You can get married." She was a Moabite woman who married Elimelech's son, who, because of a famine, went to Moab, and at that moment where Ruth is being told by her mother-in-law, "Go back, you can start your life again as a Moabite woman." And she said, "No, I'm coming with you because your people are my people. Your God is my God. Your land is my land." That's not a statement only of religious conversion. My destiny is your destiny. I want to tie my destiny to the Jewish people's destiny, which includes a land, includes a God, includes a people. And that sense of mission that the Jewish people carry is as a nation. And therefore, attaching ourselves to that destiny is an expansive experience. Rav Kook speaks a lot about this, that it's not that the Jewish people only form the foundation individually of the collective called the Jewish people. Every person has to do their part as the individual member of this Jewish people. And in Israel, we have our homes, we build our country. Everybody has a unique role to play in building the Jewish nation. But he said the real power of that experience is to draw from the collective, draw from the national dimension of the Jewish people and lift yourself up into it. It's not only that, I think in an individualist society, like often most of us grew up with in North America, our first and primary focus is our individual fulfillment, our contribution. Even there, we want to contribute to the klal, to the whole, to the collective, to the nation. But Rav Kook says it also works, and even primarily in some ways with the Jewish people, works from the collective down to the individual. The Jewish people have this special role for humanity. And if we accept that and that we're a part of it, we're lifted into that consciousness. We're lifted into a collective consciousness that very few of us normally have. We live our normal lives and we do what we can do, and we try to give tzedakah, we try to do things for community.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea that we're part of a collective that has this role in history, and by just accepting that and experiencing the expansive dimension of that, we're lifted. I'm a member of the 3,300-year-old collective entity that has a covenantal relationship with God and history. That's a big deal. It's very hard to kind of live with that. But when you actually in Israel, it's much easier because you feel you're in this renewal of this covenant stage where the last 75, 77 years, how many years? I keep on forgetting. 77 years.
Mm-hmm.
We just celebrate our 77th anniversary as Israel. We are regrouping. We brought Jews from all around the world together. We're bringing this power of the Jewish collective together, and there's a synthesis, and there's a symbiotic reinforcement of all the diverse elements of the Jewish people. I mean, in this unit alone of my son's army unit, we were asking them, like, where are you from? Where are you from? This one's from Morocco, and this one's from Syria. Again, they're not. They're all Tzabreim, even their parents are born in Israel. But you go around and you have, in a small group of 30 people, you can have 100 different countries that are represented by where we came from. And according to our tradition, that's part of the whole point. We had to be outside there to bring back the different sparks that God had in the relationship to the world as a whole. In order to be a light unto nations, we need to understand the world and be able to elevate those cultural and even spiritual dimensions of humanity that we're now bringing back to be a what's the word, a lighthouse for, and for humanity, so that it's, if you had a lighthouse of humanity, it was one dimensional. So, okay, you guys are pretty spiritual, you're pretty moral, right? Maybe we can learn from you. Maybe you're not so spiritual sometimes, you're not so moral, but the idea is not some abstraction of light for the world. It's everything that went into creating a nation, that goes into a creation of a nation, is imbued with this awareness that it's all of humanity that we're bringing together. We're bringing together an understanding of the, the music of, I don't know, Brahms, right? And the art of Rembrandt, and the economic strength of the United States, and the politeness of Canadians, and the ethical and integrity of South Africans. And there are multiple dimensions to humanity, and Jews have picked that up along the way. So when you bring them all together, there's something extremely profound and beautiful about the harmony that you can create with such diversity. And to me, that's, again, which Shavuot represents unity, but not unity in the sense of uniformity. We had 12 tribes, very different in character, very different in their purpose of their particular shevet, their tribe. They, as it's pointed out in the blessings that were given to them, different character, different purpose. Each one contributes to a whole, from the economic to the educational to the cultural to the spiritual. All these things come together in something that builds a harmony that is really a beautiful symphony for humanity. So that's, it says, even when the Torah was given, it was like there's 70 facets of the Torah. So the Jewish people experienced, when we received the 10 Commandments, some dimension of the universal aspect of Torah right there in those 10 Commandments, corresponding to these 70 facets of the Torah. Anyways, it's a beautiful, beautiful holiday that we're preparing for. And the first foundation of it is to take that to heart, that we are one people with one heart. We are diverse, and we're harmonious in that diversity. We care about people that are different than us. Shavuot is a time to reach out to people that are very different from you and see how you connect through your shared destiny, not because you have to agree on everything. One of the beautiful things about being in Jerusalem on Shavuot is you see thousands and thousands of people coming out to the streets. They have learning in all different places, in all different ways, in all different cultural frameworks that allow the same Torah to speak to this diverse people called the Jewish people and called the Israeli nation today.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love your explanation about this ingathering of the Jewish people from almost the entire world, of almost explaining, I don't know where it was first written, but the idea of that the Jews were sent into exile to pick up the what's called the Netzutze Kedusha, the sparks of holiness. And what I'm hearing from you is we picked them up to bring them back, to now put them all together into what this final destiny, Jewish people are going to look like in history in the land of Israel. It's very powerful.
And you can, you don't have to be an expert on culture to experience it here. You just have to walk on a street and speak to people.
Right?
If you sit down, there is officially today something called Yom HaAchdut, the Day of Unity. It's established for the first day of Sivan. It's the first day of the month of Sivan, corresponding to that moment when we experienced that oneness in Har Sinai. It was set by the three mothers of the three young men who were kidnapped about 11 years ago, I believe it was, 12 years ago, if you remember that tragic situation where these three boys were kidnapped when they were hitchhiking. And for about, if I'm correct, about 18 days, there was a search going on for them throughout the whole country. During those 18 days, the women themselves, the mothers, the families, experienced such an outpouring of love and unity and care and dedication to finding these boys. They found them after 18 days, and unfortunately, it was determined they had been killed. They were murdered right on the first day. But the interesting part about it is that the next year, these women got together and said, you know, that unity that was expressed throughout the Jewish people, we need to have something that can reconnect with that every year. So they started it as a small group, and then as of last year, I believe it was established in the Knesset as an official recognized day, Yom Achdut, the day for unity. And it was set on this day historically, which was the root of our unity at Mount Sinai. So as an example, they had programming all over the country yesterday for this day. One of the programs that I was involved with a little bit, I didn't actually do it, but they took mostly teenagers. They invited them on a specific section of the Tel Aviv train route, and they're T-shirts, and they have a pamphlet, and they sit down with anybody on the train and pick up a conversation to understand each other. And they were like different, you know, and they're filming them and they're taking pictures of them. And, you know, you go on a train in Israel, there's a lot of different personalities. You have religious, non-religious, right, left, different colors. And the idea was to demonstrate the unity of the Jewish people, not by talking about it in abstract terms, but to get to know somebody that's very different from you and to feel that we're one family. And so now that's a tradition that these teenagers
Amazing.
organize every year. They have programming in the schools. They have programming. They give an award every year for someone, you know, bringing about more unity in the country. So that's
Cool.
the first pillar of Shavuot.
Yeah,
And I
you know, I was thinking on Yom Yerushalayim how, you know, the Jewish people kept Yerushalayim, kept Jerusalem in their awareness, in their consciousness throughout almost 2,000 years by praying towards Jerusalem, by remembering Jerusalem at every chuppah. Like it's an amazing technique, tool to remembering something. Rav Shalom, we have to wrap up. I want to ask you these beautiful ideas being at the foot of Sinai. It's, you know, one of my prepared questions was Shavuot is often described as a missed opportunity in the Jewish calendar. So why is that? And from your perspective, what would it look like if Jews around the world would truly reclaim Shavuot? And how does the Aseret aim to make that vision a reality? I'm going to change that a little bit to what can a person do every day, or maybe every week, or regularly, to take themselves back to the foot of the mountain, to this offer. Moses is coming to the Jewish people and saying, listen, you know, the Almighty is interested in a covenant with you. Do you want it? And this acceptance. How do we do that? How do we do that on a regular basis? Take us back to, because I think it's not very central in Jewish consciousness today. It's very subconscious. I think it's there in a subconscious way, but we need to, and I would hope you agree, that's part of our mission at Aseret, to bring that out, to bring out that consciousness, and to bring that to an alertness, an awareness, a living expression of accepting that mission.
you know, these boys, these army young men, they're reminded every moment that they're part of this, they're protecting this mission of the Jewish people. They're part of the mission in these two respects. They're caring for each other. It's kind of forced upon them, but now they have such deep connection to each other. So it's every time they go out to fight, they're depending on each other. They know they're unified. They're trying to save these hostages, so they have a mission. That shlichut, that sense of mission, is something to get them out of themselves. It's not like sitting around a campfire with kumbaya. It's a mission that goes outside of yourself. You're doing something beyond yourself. You're part of this people that is trying to save these brothers and sisters, but every one of us is part of it. There's very few things that you can feel a sense of unified mission. And I feel part of the message of this care for these hostages is that everywhere you turn, everywhere you mention it, a Jew feels united in that mission. We have to get these hostages out. So sometimes it's a reminder of a reality that brings it home on a daily basis. Now, as this non-Jew said, from Australia, an actor, Nathaniel, he said, Hamas united the Jewish people on October 7th. Let's hope that it's not Hamas that keeps us united. He said this, it should be Hashem that keeps us united. Mm-hmm. That if we only would appreciate that we have this mission that God entrusted us with, that would unite us. We need each other to fulfill it. We need a sense of mission. The world is not where it needs to be. The Jewish people are being called upon to fulfill this mission of tikkun olam, of light unto nations, to repair the world, to reduce the pain in the world, to get rid of war. This is our mission as a Jewish people. So every day, we say this in our prayers all the time, but often the prayers are just said, not felt. But if you were to just even look at one of the prayers that says 3 times a day, Aleinu l'shabeach, in the second paragraph, it says, L'taken olam v'malchut shaddai v'chol b'nei v'asariku b'shmecha lafnoit elecha kol rishei aretz yikru l'yedei kol yoshvei tevel. There's a vision for humanity that we have there. We're going to bring about it, repairing the world, even the evil, kol rishei olam. All of those who are evil in the world are going to turn to God, and there's going to be peace. So we, as a Jewish people, are on this mission since Sinai. We have to get up in the morning, and as Omer Shem Tov, who was a hostage in Gaza, said, every day he got up in the morning, he's being tortured, he's being starved, and first thing he would say, he'd go, Hashem, he called it Abba. He said, God, Father in heaven, how are you? Ma shlomcha? That was his first prayer. Then he would say, thank you, God, for the food that's actually sustaining me, the fact that I'm still breathing, which he was very appreciative of. And he would go through what he's appreciative of. But his first question to God was not, get me out of here. How are you? Now, I think that when we talk about Jewish prayer, we basically say we have this intimate relationship with God as individuals and as the whole Jewish people. And God's perspective on this situation is something that we don't normally attain to. We don't normally get it. But if you ask God, how are you feeling? How do we think God's feeling? You guys are messing this up. Could you get your act together? I'm not happy with this. There's a lot of pain. God experiences, we say, kaviyacho, it's as if God's pain becomes our pain. We feel God's pain in seeing the hostages, seeing the situation, seeing war, seeing all the suffering, including the Gazan children. Include that. Of course, we feel their pain. They're being tortured by their own people. Hamas is responsible for tens of thousands of deaths of children, their own children. Does that not pain God? Of course it does. Does that not pain us? Of course it should. What's the answer to that? They should give the hostages back and lay down their arms, and there won't be any of that. But the point being, you asked a good, very important question. How do we sustain a sense of consistent awareness of this mission that we're on and the relationship that we got at Sinai? And of course, earlier in our history, we said the 10 Commandments every single day in the temple period, in the Jewish prayer book. It's in halakha, in Jewish halakha, it says, say the 10 Commandments every single day to remind yourself of Mount Sinai and your belief that God, and your reiteration of this covenantal relationship that we have. Doesn't take more than a minute. 1 minute saying the 10 Commandments itself could be transformative every day. Again, to remind yourself 3 things. One is we stood at Mount Sinai and we undertook this mission. Second, that God will help us to fulfill this mission. So it's a hopeful statement. And third, he gave us the Divrei Habrit. He gave us the core values to fulfill his mission, which I'm going over. I'm reviewing them right then. So just a basic reconnection with Sinai. Obviously, if you want to do it as a meditation, you want to go into deeper, you want to think about, write down your new insights, but just even saying them once a day is a way of reconnecting with that moment in Sinai when we said, Nasa v'nishma, yes, we're going to fulfill this mission, and thank you, God, for this relationship, and we have confidence in the face of this challenging situation that all of us are in now, that we're actually going to get through it, and we're going to succeed in our mission to being this light unto nations with the core values that you've given us to achieve that. So it's multi-dimensional, but the saying of it, I think, is a declaration of, what do they call it in the America? The Shavuot Emunim, Pledge of Allegiance. It's a pledge of allegiance to our mission, which it would be worthwhile for every Jew to undertake. Can't do it every day, do it once a week. Find a way of reconnecting with that Sinai experience. And that's what Shavuot is here to remind us of. It's so powerful. It's so transformative. It's such a gift. Matan Torah is a gift. If we only appreciated the gifts that we have of the Torah, of the Aseret Global, of the mission that we've been entrusted with, it's all a gift. So celebrate it this Shavuot and continue after Shavuot, once a day, once a week, at least, to review the content of those core values of the mission that we've been entrusted with.
Well, I want to suggest, promote, wrote this little book called The Jewish Mission. So actually in the back of it is something what I call 10 for 10. And it's what you're describing. It's 10 minutes a day for the 10 commandments. It's reading through them, understanding them as the Divrei Habrit, the words of the covenant, thinking about what does each one mean. I really think it needs to, that's part of what we're doing, is revealing the light of the 10 commandments at Aseret. What is the light of, Lo Tirtzach, don't murder. Yeah, we know that, but do we know that we live for Shalom? Do we know that that's a Jewish value, to create peace in this world? That's really what we're doing. That's what we're fighting for. Almost paradoxical. But anyway, going through those, and then, as you mentioned, like in temple times, I actually would say the Shema afterwards. So the Shema is it's an affirmation of that. I think I'm going to put in the next edition, add a prayer. Say a personal prayer. God, help me with this. We're in this together. I think that's the meaning of a covenant. You can also find it on aseret.org and the daily practices, the 10 for 10. I think that would be an amazing thing. People to reconnect to that. I know I do it every morning, and it is transformative. I live in a different space, different experience of life. It's magical sometimes. It's interesting. It's really wow. So let's try get that. That's bold. Let's get that to the Jewish people and see what happens. All right, Rabbi Shalom, thank you so much.
I just want to add one little point. I think if you haven't seen Tragic Awakening, our film, it is the backdrop to all that we're speaking about here. It explains that what we're going through today,
right,
the explosion of anti-Semitism, the determination to wipe out the Jewish people, is because we carry this mission, and explains that in some, both the book also by Raphael Shore, Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Jew. All of these are resources that can give you the foundation of why what you've written is so important. It gives you the foundation of the commitment to re-engage the Aseret Global. Then the study, obviously, is the necessary counterpart to understand what the meaning of it is, how they all come together, because we have a lot to learn. Torah, in the end, Shavuot is celebrating this relationship between learning and living the Torah in its fullness. Certainly the 10 Commandments is the foundation and the essence of that. So I hope that this Shavuot will be a turning point for all of us, the entire Jewish people. Hopefully our our precious brothers and sisters, hostages, will be released before then or on then, and we'll be able to celebrate with them this renewal of our covenant on Shavuot.
Amen, amen. Thank you. And Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.